So I've just finished my first playthrough of Dark Souls 3, which is what you can see in the background, and it is simply outstanding. It's replaced the first Dark Souls as being the best game that I've probably ever played. And throughout the whole experience of playing it, I've been thinking a lot about single player games and how they seem to almost not be a bit of a dying breed, but they seem to have lost some significance among the gaming community. A lot of people now are very focused on multiplayer to the point where you get games come out with no single player campaign, Titanfall, Star Wars Battlefront, and so on. And it's also interesting that, perhaps apart from Team Fortress, those games tend to have very little longevity, which suggests perhaps people do want a little bit of single player. And I start to wonder now if games are coming out that are too multiplayer focused. That's what I love about Dark Souls. There is multiplayer, but it's sort of integrated into the story, and you can sort of do a structured, organised multiplayer session, but it's not the only thing that the game is about. Now, if I think about my favourite games of all time, of course Dark Souls 3 is now up there, along with Dark Souls 1 and 2. It's probably my favourite franchise. And on top of that, even more single player games just dominate that list of my favourite gaming experiences. Things like Heavy Rain, which you have to play if you haven't played already. God, that game is good. Metal Gear Solid 3, Silent Hill 2, Mass Effect 1 to 3, South Park The Stick of Truth. So many single player games. There's some multiplayer games thrown in there like the Gears of War franchise, COD 4 and so on, but it's mainly single player games. And I think that can be where you get the best gaming experience. Now, when you play a multiplayer game, you can have a barrel of laughs, you can have good fun, it can be really addictive, and in some cases with games like DayZ, it can be very immersive. But in most cases, the most immersion and perhaps emotion you get is the feeling of satisfaction of killing that annoying, obnoxious 13-year-old kid, or the feeling of pure rage when that obnoxious, annoying 13-year-old kid kills you and teabags you. And okay, things like the audio and the visual of the environment you're playing in can be quite immersive, but nothing beats the immersion of a good and engrossing single player experience. Now, I see games as a sit forward experience. With a movie, you sit back and you're not really an active part of the experience, but with a game, you sat forward, controller or mouse and keyboard in hand, and you are directly involved in the story that is playing out in front of you. So when there's twists and turns and shocking moments, they really do hit you more, I think, than with a movie, because you are actively involved with what is going on. And a good single player game can produce such a good value for money in terms of the amount you spend versus the amount of hours you get from it. And if you compare that to other media, like a film for example, it's an unbelievable return on your money, and that is the same with multiplayer as well. But I feel like the art of making a good single player game is in danger of being lost on certain communities. And I think we're also too reliant on how pretty a game looks. This is why there's so many remakes, I think, now. It's because you can't get the younger generation of gamers, which makes me feel very old saying that, to appreciate a masterpiece such as Silent Hill 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, Final Fantasy 7, without making it look pretty. You just think, oh, that game looks like a bag of shit, I don't want to play it. And that's just such a shame. I guess the point that I'm trying to make is I finished Dark Souls 3, and it reminded me why I love single player games. Because you just can't wait to get home and see what happens next. Okay, with a multiplayer you can't wait to get home and see how many people you can kill. But with a single player, you want to find out the next part of that story. You don't really get that story with a multiplayer game. And I think every gamer should take time out of their multiplayer experiences to really sit down and enjoy a good single player game. So that's really all I have to say on the topic. I hope you guys are all doing well, and I'll see you all in the next one.